Shinzo Abe was a Japanese politician who served as Prime Minister of Japan and President of the Liberal Democratic Party. He was the longest-serving Prime Minister in Japanese history. On July 8, 2022, Abe was assassinated while delivering a campaign speech in the city of Nara 2 days before the upper house elections. What began as a sleepy campaign event became the site of horror, chaos, and murder of Japan's longest-serving prime minister. Shinzo Abe's death comes as a shock in a country where gun violence, much less political violence, is exceedingly rare. Why did it happen? What went wrong? And could it all be avoided? Japan was holding elections for the upper house of parliament on Sunday, July 8, 2022. Ex-Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was visiting the city of Nara, a city in western Japan, to deliver a speech on the street, supporting a ruling party candidate in elections. The ex-Prime Minister was standing at an intersection outside a train station, speaking to a crowd, as cars and vans passed behind his exposed back, where the attacker appeared. Around 11:30 a.m., Mr. Abe began his speech. Shortly afterward, 2 loud bangs rang out, like the sound of fireworks. The attacker had fired 2 gunshots. Mr. Abe had fallen, stretched out on the ground, with blood rushing through his white shirt. He was quickly airlifted to a hospital for emergency treatment, but was not breathing, and his heart had stopped. He was later pronounced dead, despite emergency treatment that included massive blood transfusions. A doctor who treated Mr. Abe said that he had gunshot wounds near the base of his neck, and that 1 bullet pierced his heart. Police quickly pinned the attacker to the ground and arrested him. But it was too late. The 41-year-old man who fired the gunshots was later identified by police. His name is Tetsuya Yamagami, who lives in an apartment near the shooting site. Nara District Court transferred Yamagami to a medical institution for the mental check, and he will stay at the facility until November. He is set to undergo an examination of his mental condition around the time of the incident. But how he was able to get a weapon? In a country where the restrictions do not allow private citizens to have handguns. Japan is considered one of the safest countries in the world and has extremely strict gun laws. Japan has some of the lowest rates of gun ownership and gun violence in the world, with only 1 person killed by gun violence in 2021. Gun violence recorded over 45,000 firearm deaths in the US that same year. It was later discovered that the attacker was employed by the Japanese Self-Defense Forces from 2002 to 2005 and apparently knew his way around weapons. He committed the crime with a homemade shotgun, and during a police search other firearms and explosives were found in the attacker's apartment. Although Yamagami denied political motivations, he has told investigators he believes Abe was linked to the Unification Church, which he resents because his family's finances were ruined due to donations made by his mother. The attacker's mother had apparently joined the group and donated all her possessions to it. Video images showed the attacker fired at Abe from behind, with a homemade gun that had a pistol grip and what appeared to be 2 pipes, covered in black electrical tape. The weapon was made of materials such as wood for the frame, plumbing pipes for the barrels, electrical tape, commercial batteries for the ignition, and electrical wiring. In addition to the homemade gun used in the incident, at least 5 guns were seized from Yamagami's apartment in Nara. Yamagami told police the attack had been planned for months. He said that he began making guns around spring last year, and police suspect that he used the apartment room to make gunpowder for these homemade weapons. He also rented a garage for drying gunpowder. Yamagami has also said he test-fired a gun in the early hours of July 7th at a building in Nara that houses a facility linked to the Unification Church. Residents living in the vicinity of the facility heard a loud noise at around 4 a.m. on July 7th. Yamagami's car was caught on a nearby security camera. He said he test-fired the gun while still in his car, in an apparent bid to make a quick getaway. An investigation by the police revealed that the 6 holes were found on the premises. When the former prime minister stepped up to speak, Yamagami could be seen in video footage in the background, clapping. As Yamagami walked up behind Abe, security did not appear to take action. Mr. Abe was exposed from behind as he spoke on a traffic island on a public road. His security detail allowed the attacker to come within meters of Abe, unchecked, carrying a weapon. The head of Global Threat Solutions, Kenneth Bames, said, security should have seen the attacker very deliberately walking towards the rear of the Prime Minister and intervened. Global Threat Solutions provided security to Joe Biden when he was a presidential candidate. A former police sergeant said the security could have stopped the first shot had they been vigilant and communicating. Yamagami came within about 7 meters of Abe before firing his first shot, which missed. The video showed that, after the first shot, Abe turned and looked over his left shoulder. 2 bodyguards scrambled to get between him and the attacker. 2 others headed toward the gunman. Around 2.5 seconds later, at about 5 meters away, he fired the second shot, which hit the Prime Minister near his neck. Although Abe's security tackled the attacker moments later and arrested him, security experts say it was the wrong response for some of the security to go after the attacker instead of moving to protect Abe. Security experts who analyzed footage of Abe's speech in the shooting said bodyguards could have saved former Prime Minister if they shielded him or removed him from the line of fire in the 2.5 seconds between a missed first shot and the second round of gunfire that fatally wounded him. Japanese authorities, including Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, have acknowledged security lapses, and police say they are investigating. Tomoki Onizuka, head of the Nara Prefectural Police, told reporters that I believe it is undeniable that there were problems with the guarding and safety measures for former Prime Minister Abe. Koichi Ito, a former sergeant at the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department, said if Abe had been protected properly, it could have been avoided. John Saltis, a former U.S. Navy SEAL and CIA officer, now a vice president at a security firm, said Abe's bodyguards did not appear to have concentric rings of security around him, nor any type of surveillance in the crowd. Yasuhiro Sasaki, a retired police officer in Saitama Prefecture near Tokyo, who handled security for VIPs, said there was enough security, but no sense of danger, and everyone was startled, and no one went to where Abe was. Attacks on high-ranking politicians are rare in Japan, but not without precedent. There have been a number of assassinations and assassination attempts on the country's leaders during their time in office. Prime Minister Hirobumi Ito was assassinated in 1909. In 1921, Takashi Hara, who was known as the first commoner to become the prime minister, was stabbed to death at Tokyo Station. 9 years later, in 1930, Prime Minister Osachi Hamaguchi was attacked by a gunman at Tokyo Station. He survived the assassination, but died a year later as a result of his injuries. In 1932, a group of armed naval officers stormed the Prime Minister's office and shot Premier Tsuyoshi Inukai, killing him in what is now known as the May 15th incident. In 1960, a member of a right-wing extremist group assassinated Abe's grandfather, the then Prime Minister Nobusuke Kishi, but he survived. That same year, Inajiro Asanuma, then head of the Japan Socialist Party, was fatally stabbed by a 17-year-old rightist in front of running television cameras. Yukio Aoshima received a parcel bomb during his time as Tokyo's governor in 1995. Luckily, he survived. More recently, Nagasaki Mayor Icho Ito was campaigning in 2007 when he was shot and killed. Still, the death of a leading politician at the hands of an assassin left many Japanese wondering why their society, among the safest in the world, was touched by this type of gun violence. No matter what you think about Mr. Abe's politics, the fact that a man who took such great responsibility and did so much has died in this way is a tragedy.